So what are the assignments in this course? Well, there are 3 different types of assignments. There will be 3 essays, there will be 7 blogs, and finally you're going to post a 3rd thing. So let's describe these 3 different types of assignments. First of all, your first essay is going to be a biblical and theological essay around at least 3,000 words. It can be longer. In this essay, what you're going to do is to draw on the biblical and theological resources provided in this course in order to write an essay that develops a Christian understanding of forgiveness and reconciliation. In this essay, I want you to address these questions. What is forgiveness? Whom does forgiveness involve? How does it take place? And why does it matter? So my hope is that the course material that we are providing in this course will enable you to answer these questions in order to develop your own working biblical and theological framework for understanding forgiveness. Now here's the grading guide for this paper. You will find this posted in the section for posting your essays. So in this, the grading guide then will test how well you demonstrate your mastery of course material, how well you're able to articulate an emerging working theology, and then finally basic questions about writing. Does it have a thesis? Is it effective in communicating its main point? Does it meet the minimum word requirement? I will have resources also posted in the section on your essays for how you might be able to draw on writing resources from the library, and Peter Suzag, which is our writing resources consultant, if you want help with writing. The second major essay, which will be due at the end of the semester, is a project essay. And in this essay, you will expand on themes developed in the course in order to design a project that addresses some aspect of forgiveness, and where you will write an essay reflecting on that project. So you can choose to do a variety of different things for this. For example, a research paper, a liturgical or pedagogical presentation, a case study. These are just some examples. You can do a review essay of a range of different books. There are a number of different ideas of things that you could do for this project. However, the project needs to be at least 3,000 words. And it needs to include not only a description of the project itself, for example, a liturgy that you might use, or a plan that you might use for a retreat, or a research paper on some topic discussed. So you would have a discussion of that topic, like forgiveness in relation to restorative justice, for example. So it needs to include a description of whatever your project is. However, in addition to that, you need to engage in theological reflection. So that, for example, if you do a liturgy, you also have to have theological reflection on the meaning of that liturgy. And you also need to bring in, since this is a course that deals not just with a biblical theological framework, but also with current interdisciplinary research on forgiveness, you're also going to need to incorporate the theoretical and practical aspects of forgiveness and some analysis of that. So I don't just want a description of your project itself. I also want some kind of theological analysis, as well as some kind of depiction of the theoretical and practical aspects involved in the project or related to the project. And here's a grading guide. How well do you present the project? How well do you engage in a theoretical and theological analysis of themes? And how well do you provide an analysis of the pastoral and practical implications of your project? And then finally, also writing will be very important. And then finally, the last essay will be an essay on forgiveness in your life. In previous versions of this course, I assigned this at the beginning of the course. In this class, I'm going to assign this at the very end so that you can actually reflect on whatever this experience has been of forgiveness in your life, that you can reflect on that in relation to the material that we've been covering in this course. So the question to ask in this essay, which will be due at the end of the semester, is, in view of the themes covered in this course, reflect on some pivotal experience that you have had in offering or not offering, and or receiving or not receiving forgiveness. So it can be a situation forgiveness where forgiveness happened or where it didn't happen. Okay, we want you to be honest in describing this particular situation. So in this essay, the goal here is to practice a kind of self-awareness and self-care essential to fruitful ministry. So what did this experience teach you about forgiveness? What are you sure about? What still confuses you about this experience? In what ways are you at peace with this situation? In what ways are you still wrestling with what took place? For many of us, forgiveness is a lifelong process. It just doesn't get sealed once and for all. Forgiveness often revolves around trauma, and if you know anything about trauma theory, trauma continually recurs. So how does ongoing practices of forgiveness enable us to address these traumatic experiences as they've occurred? So be sure that your reflection encompasses all three of these dimensions, that there is an actual that there are astute observations about what actually took place, that you make connections with the course material, including both the theological and theoretical concepts that we've covered, and also that you discuss implications for your own personal growth and for your own ministry practice. So here's the grading guide for this essay. So how well do you describe the situation? How well do you provide a theological and theoretical analysis? And then what are the implications for your own personal growth and ministry practice? And then finally, we'll look at writing as well. Now, to accompany each of these essays, you will post a brief video statement of no more than 2 minutes. So you'll post a brief video of no more than 2 minutes where you give an informal description of what you plan to discuss in your essay. So this video statement is assigned before each of these essays are due. And the whole purpose is to help you prepare for writing that essay by giving you an opportunity to start integrating and summarize in the form of some kind of personal confessional, a personal statement, where you summarize the main point that you're going to address in the essay. So that will be due on the noon of the Wednesday that the essay is assigned. The essays are usually going to be due on a Monday or a Tuesday, so the previous Wednesday is when this video statement is due. And then after watching the video statement, you're going to meet with your small group. And this, if your small group decides to do a Zoom conversation, you'll do a Zoom conversation on your video statements, or if your small group has decided to do written responses, you'll have written responses. But either way, what you're going to do is somehow respond to one another's video statements. In other words, instead of responding to blogs for that week, you're going to be responding to one another's video statements. Now, for each essay, I want you to post a 500-word reflection paper. These reflection papers are really important because that's where I really discover what's been going on in your own life and personal experience as you've written the essay. Does that make sense? So it's only 500 words, okay, so it's not a big deal, but I do want you to take very seriously your reflection on what you actually learned while writing the essay. Now, just a comment on the blogs. So in addition to the essays, you're going to write 3 essays, you're going to write 7 blogs, and then have a discussion with a Zoom conversation or written responses, depending on what your small group has decided to do. So what's the whole idea behind the blogs? The blogs give you an opportunity every week, and they need to be at least 300 words. They can be longer. They give you an opportunity to actually think about and reflect on the material designed. So you can organize these blogs any way you'd like, but the whole purpose is to enable you to integrate what you've learned from the material assigned from that week. And these blogs will also serve as a starting point for conversation with your peers. Now, your blogs are due at noon on Wednesday, and our TA, DJ, is going to be responding to your blogs. Now, in your blogs, you will discuss these blogs with your peers by Saturday. And you can do this in either of two ways. I recommend that you meet for 45-minute Zoom conversations if you can find a time for this, and make sure that you have a scribe who writes down, who takes notes on your conversation, so I can read what you've actually talked about. I like to know what you're actually talking, how your discussions, I would like to find out about how your discussions are going. I also think those notes will be helpful for you as you write your essays, since you may want to go back and review what you discussed in your small groups. Make sure you share the load of taking notes on your Zoom conversation. If you can't find a time when anybody can meet and when everybody can meet, then simply write written responses to one another of at least 50 words. Just write these written responses to one another. Now, here are guidelines for your blogs and responses. You'll each be assigned to a group of 4 to 5 people. Each online blog, as I've said, is a step towards helping you clarify what you want to write in that essay. You'll respond to your group mates' blogs through either written responses or a Zoom conversation. And in your posts and responses or Zoom conversation, you want both to clarify your own ideas, offering reasons for what you have to say, and especially as you're in conversation with other people, you want to help them clarify their ideas. It's not about, I like this, I don't like this. It's not about that. It's really about welcoming respectful and critical engagement with one another, with curiosity and an openness, even maybe to changing your stances if needed. Overall, these blogs and conversations related to your blogs are an opportunity for you to develop your own and your group mates' emerging working theology. Guidelines for Zoom conversations if your group decides to do this. I always want to make sure that you don't have just a few people dominating the conversation in the group, and one way to avoid this is to start simply by going around the room and have each one share the main themes that struck them, either about the work that you did, either about the material in the course for that week or about one another's blogs. So go around and have each one share what they have learned that week, either from the course material or from your blogs with one another. And then maybe even keep a little silence between each speaker. And then after everybody has spoken, then open it up for conversation. I just think it's really important that you have that time at the beginning so that you make sure everybody gets their oar into the conversation. Guidelines for class interactions. These are from Carla Dahl, who's a retired pastoral care prof. I used to teach the forgiveness course with her. Be fully present, breathe and stay in the room, presume welcome and extend welcome, avoid making your experience normative for others, refrain from trying to fix, save, or set straight others in the class. That's not that Jesus does that. You don't have to do that. When the interaction gets tricky, turn to inquiry rather than advocacy. Wonder about something instead of defending something. Pay attention to the distinction between dialogue, which begins with a question, and debate, which begins with an answer. Make sure your questions are real questions, not ones intended to make a point or demonstrate prior knowledge or to communicate a hidden agenda. Observe confidentiality, especially with regard to material shared by classmates. I think these are very helpful guidelines for your Zoom conversations and even for your written responses to one another. And now finally, what is this third thing all about? Okay, a third thing is going to be an indirect representations of your feelings about offering or receiving forgiveness. It might be a visual image or a photograph, a poem, a collage, a music or video clip, or something else that has really spoken to you. So it's a third thing that enables you, that represents a feeling that's out there. You don't need to create or invent this. You are free to draw on the creativity and work of others, giving appropriate credit, of course. Now, so that's the third thing, and we've had a lot of really interesting third things posted in the course during the courses where I've assigned this. I got this idea also from Carla Dahl, who I used to co-teach this course with. Now, along with your third thing, since this is an online course, if we were in a face-to-face course, you would give an oral description of your third thing. But because this is a face-to-face course, you will post a video statement of no more than 2 minutes in which you briefly describe how your third thing represents your feelings about forgiveness. So this is just a description of that. So before the class starts, I will pass out a sheet in which you can sign up for a time when you will present your third thing. So you can find this in the sign up sheet in the course resources section. Please indicate when you will post your third thing on the sign up sheet, okay, which you can find on the course Moodle.